They're currently at plus 110 to win the ACC. That is laughable. All right, welcome back to Revolving Sports. Time to get into some college football. I am so juiced. I'm so juiced. I think college football has officially turned into the greatest sport in the United States. I can't wait. Let's hop right into this and talk about Clemson. Let's have the Clemson conversation. Folks, this Clemson roster, this Clemson depth chart resembles the Trevor Lawrence teams, resembles the Deshaun Watson teams. And I'm here to say they might be more talented. This Clemson team is the most talented Clemson team, debatably, Dabo's ever had. So not only do I think Clemson at 6 is massively disrespectful, I think Clemson challenges Texas as the best team in college football. I think if Texas and Clemson today played on a neutral site field, I'd probably bet on Clemson. Here's what I mean. Clemson returned 16 starters from last year's squad. They holistically have the best NFL talent when you look at premier positions such as defensive line, quarterback, wide receiver. They have 6 graduate senior starters and 3 along their offensive line. You look at Cade Klubnik, top 3 quarterback in college football, clearly in the Heisman mix, 28 career starts. That's pretty damn good. He will be a top 15 pick in 2026. You look at wide receiver. I think Clemson has the best wide receiver trio in the country. I know about Jeremiah Smith and the Bucks. I know about Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman. But when you look at what Clemson has, Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore. TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco, as true freshmen last year, bursted onto the scenes in a real way. Clemson's been struggling at that position for the last 3 or 4 years. I think it's a primary reason why we saw them take a step back. As true freshmen, they both caught for 600 plus yards. They both had some of the best metrics in terms of deep balls, in terms of 20 plus yard receptions. Those 2 guys are studs. And then you look at Antonio Williams, who in his own right, since his true freshman year, has had immense production. He blends great speed, great fluidity, great fluid hips with a ton of experience. He'll be a first-round pick next year. Wesco and Moore will be first-round picks in 2027. As a trio, this weapon core, this wide receiver core, is the best in the country. You look at an offensive line with 3 graduate starters. I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't. That's incredibly rare. Clemson's likely to have the best offense in college football. And I know I keep saying best in college football because Clemson's position groups are ridiculous. I mean, just compare Clemson's offense to the other offenses in the top 5. Top 5. Texas. They lost Kelvin Banks and Cameron Williams from a dominant veteran offensive line last year. Clemson returns everyone, and like I said, has graduate starters. Arch versus Cade. To be conservative, we'll say that's a scratch. But in reality, Cade has 28 career starts. He's improved. He's took his bruises, took his lumps. Arch has started, less than 5 games? You compare Clemson and Penn State. Drew Aller is the most overrated quarterback in college football. Whether that's for next year, whether that's for his pro potential, Drew Aller is severely overrated. He gets enormous stats versus subpar competition. And when push comes to shove, when the lights are the brightest, he's not making those off-script plays that a Cade Klubnik makes to change the momentum, to change the face of that game. Klubnik takes that head-to-head matchup by far. Georgia. Gunnar Stockton, inexperienced quarterback. An offensive line that loses Dylan Fairchild, loses Jared Wilson, loses Tate Radledge, much like Texas last year. Great offensive lines last year, veteran groups. Now that team is Clemson. Look at defensively now. What did Clemson have defensively when they were competing and winning national championships? Elite experienced defensive front 4 with 5-star pedigree, veteran linebacker, great corner. They always had a first-round pick, an experienced leadership, whether it was safety in the nickel. That's what Clemson had. That was their blueprint. And you look at what they have now. Peter Woods and TJ Parker on their defensive front 4 are 2 not only top 10 picks in next year's draft, they both could be top 5. Both of these guys have over 20 career starts. Peter Woods, to me, looks like a Quinnen Williams 2.0. TJ Parker looks like a prime Bradley Chubb. A speed to power 6'3", 265, 270-pound edge with immensely talented bull rush. Premier talent, the best NFL talent at premier positions. Folks, Clemson is the number one team in America, and Clemson is my preseason national championship pick. They're currently at plus 110 to win the ACC. That is laughable. That is crazy. And that's a steal of a bet. At number 2, I kind of regret that I'm doing this, but I can't ignore what I'm seeing on paper, and I can't ignore what I saw last year. USC. Sorry. I know we've been harping on for years. USC's defense is going to improve. Well, last year under D'Anton Lynn, it finally did. It finally did, and there was massive jumps made in terms of their rush defense, in terms of just at the point of attack. What that defensive front did at Michigan last year. A defensive front, by the way, that goes too deep at every position. But you just look at a cultural identity. USC had the shift last year. I think USC's identity now, firmly ingratiated, ground and pound defense. I will go on record right now saying that USC has the deepest front four group in college football. We're talking about highly rated recruits who match experience and production with a ton of guys who are set to pop off, particularly Devin Tompkins and Cameron Fountain. Then you look at the veterans. Eric Gentry has been one of the most underrated defenders for a long time. He has some health concerns, but at linebacker, 6'6", 220 pounds, a firm unicorn that when playing last year provides a dynamic, diverse skill set that no other team in America has when it comes to pass rush, coverage, stuffing the run. Eric Gentry's back for a 5th season. That's huge. Kamari Ramsey, veteran leader at safety, potentially the best safety in the country. So when you compile everything here, with a pretty veteran DB room surrounding Ramsey, you're looking at a defense that can make serious noise, that can be better than a much improved unit from last year, especially on 3rd down. And if Eric Gentry can stay healthy, which is a big if, but if he can, dude, watch out. Offensively, we got to start the USC conversation with Maui Ava at quarterback. People get concerned because he's not a big name. People will tell you, yeah, there's accuracy concerns. He throws some bad interceptions. I'll agree with you. I'm not saying you're wrong. But did you know Maui Ava was the 4th graded quarterback according to PFF last year in terms of non-play action passes? What does that tell me? An offseason to continue to gel with his weapons, continuing to build chemistry with Jacoby Lane and Makai Lemon. Jacoby Lane, folks, if you haven't watched, just go watch a little bit of his tape. I mean, he is so reminiscent of Drake London when Drake London played for USC. We're talking about the best 50-50 ball receiver in America, and it's not close, who is complemented by Makai Lemon, a player of complete opposite skill set, but as a college football receiver right now is elite in that skill set. Great route runner out of the slot, very reliable hands, very gritty. Reminds me a lot of Emeka Egbuka. He's of that mold, and I think he's of that type of talent right now. USC can be dangerous offensively. Now the question mark with USC is their offensive line. Can Elijah Page improve at left tackle? I think he can. And by the way, I met him in the airport. One of the nicest dudes, seriously, one of the nicest dudes I have ever met for a single conversation. Really improved as the year went on last year. He's committed to his craft. I think he takes a big leap. I think USC can firmly be a 9-win team. Firmly can be a 9-win team. And if that offensive line improves, I don't know. I mean, USC can beat Michigan and Illinois pretty handily if that happens. They could be a college football playoff team. And To get them at over 7.5 wins, to me is a joke, to me is a steal. USC, very underrated. Next up, Washington. Go Dogs, lived there for a year when I was like 15. You're probably thinking, whoa, what? Yeah, Washington Huskies. I'm going to go out on a limb that right now this statement will sound crazy, but 8 months from now, check back in. The trio of Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, and Denzel Boston is the best quarterback, running back, wide receiver trio in college football. You're asking yourself right now, okay, who's this Damon Williams guy? You shouldn't be, but if you are, let me tell you. Damon Williams is Kyler Murray light. The pocket twitch, the sixth sense, the instincts, the lightning quick in a 5-yard box. Go watch the tape. Folks, Damon Williams has it. When it comes to extending plays, even as a sophomore, there's no better quarterback in the country than Damon Williams at that. And when you look at when he just uses his legs, great vision and very above average speed for the quarterback position. Again, he's a make you miss guy. He's a jitterbug type of guy. Seriously, don't be surprised, and we'll get to Washington's schedule soon. Do not be surprised if Damon is a dark horse in the Heisman race. In the race, not saying he'll win it, in the race. And to me, he is the best quarterback in the Big Ten. Jonah Coleman, young Ronnie Brown. Young Ronnie Brown, young Doug Martin. Jonah Coleman is the most physical running back in the country. And in terms of pound for pound elusiveness for size, about 5'10", 225, 230 pounds. Jonah Coleman's a dog. He's a dog. Again, people will talk about Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, Mekhi Hughes, the Tulane transfer for Oregon. No. Jonah Coleman's the best running back in the Big Ten. And then Denzel Boston. 6'3", 210 pounds, a 50-50 ball expert. A guy who's going to firmly be in the first round mix in the 2026 class from a talent perspective and from a production matching experience perspective. Denzel Boston's one of the better receivers in the country. And sometimes in college football, all it takes is a couple of great players to really propel your team. And this is a group under Jedd Fisch that in the blink of an eye transformed U of A, a non-football school, a really reeling football school for a long time, into a legit, at that time, Pac-12 contender. In year 2 at Washington, I expect him to do great things. But this defense, riddled, by the way, with U of A transfers, guys that were his guys 4 years ago. Tack Davis and Prysock, the other U of A transfer, both 6'4", both 200 pounds, both have had great production in the past but struggled last year. Those guys are going to be pterodactyl-esque, Sean Smith-esque. Remember him from the Dolphins and the Chiefs, 6'3", 6'4", press man, jam ya at the line type guy. That's Prysock and Tack Davis. And with Jedd Fisch, Tack Davis was one of the best corners in college football and a guy who had a first-round grade. This defense can be much improved. And if it is, the only weakness of this Washington Husky football team, again, is that offensive line. Unlike USC, they don't have the similar quality of transfers. They don't have a similar quality of returning players. So that's the concern. But their schedule, and I'll actually pull it up live here. Colorado State, UC Davis, Washington State. They're 3-0 in those first 3. They then host in one of the most beautiful, but also one of the toughest venues in the country. They host Ohio State at home. If somehow they can pull off the upset win, which, home game with Williams, Coleman, and Boston is possible, or they keep it close, they then go on to play Maryland, Rutgers, and Michigan. Those are 3 wins. By the way, Michigan, I'm pretty low on. They should not be in the coaches poll, which let's double check if they are. Yeah, they're 14 on the poll. That's ridiculous. So that right there is 6-1. Illinois at home. Another swing game. If Washington splits between Ohio State and Illinois, they go into a home game against Oregon, November 29th, week 15, to decide whether they go to the playoff. Potentially, I know this sounds crazy, but look at their schedule. With the best quarterback in the Big Ten, with the best running back in the Big Ten, with a tremendous receiver in Denzel Boston, and a defense that's loaded with transfers, that's loaded with Jed Fish's boys from U of A, dude, this could be a two-loss Washington Husky team that the committee has to make a very difficult decision on. And again, I think it'll go back to how tightly they play Ohio State at home, how tightly they play Oregon at home, but look at this. Ohio State at home, Illinois at home, Oregon at home. The rest is fluff. Washington, third most underrated team in the country. Let's move on to Auburn. Let's go to the SEC now. This one's pretty quick. Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, and Perry Thompson is the only wide receiver room that is on par with Clemson's. And folks, Cam Coleman, from an athletic profile standpoint, and from what we saw as a true freshman, Cam Coleman kind of looks like a young Julio Jones. If you think that's nuts, go watch his tape. I mean, this is like a 6'4", 215-pound guy that's easily 4.4s, low 4.4s. Guy with great hands, a true 50-50 ball threat. So it's not just explosiveness, size, speed. It's the instincts, it's the hands, it's the details with him too. Then there's Singleton, right? Another one of those could sneak into the first round cats. One of those 5'11", 5'10", 180-pound guys. He's basically what Zachariah Branch, what people expected him to become. He's instantly one of the better wide receivers in the SEC when it comes to the ball in his hands. Advanced metrics back that up. It all comes down to Jackson Arnold. Can he be a game manager? Can he make the right throws at the right time, making the right reads? Can he just put the ball in a decent enough place for Coleman and Singleton to get to work? And if that's a yes, and if he reaches that five-star type hype and becomes a very good quarterback on a team with better high-end weapons than the Sooners had by a massive mile-wide gap, you could be looking at one of the most explosive offenses in the country. Then there's Keldrick Folk, who besides TJ Parker, Keldrick Folk might be the best defensive end in the country. He might be the best pass rusher in the country. My comp for him is a prime Leonard Floyd, one of those 6'6", 6'7", very bendy, very long type cats with a lot more power. Like with a legit 270-pound frame, can win because of bull rush and length. Auburn's going to have a good enough defense with a fierce enough pass rush to where if they could jump to a lead in games because of their explosive talent and because Arnold takes a mini incremental leap, can be a good game manager, that's all he has to be, then this pass rush that Auburn has can start to tee off. And this is an Auburn team who, compared to an SEC foe, let's say like a Florida, Auburn's schedule is very manageable for the type of high-end talent that this squad has. Baylor, Ball State, South Alabama, Oklahoma. So they're 4-0 there. They go into a game at Texas A&M. Tough. Georgia, tough. Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer. They'll likely go into the Alabama game as a two-loss squad. And Alabama would then go into the Iron Bowl. Ooh, that's a crazy schedule. Alabama would likely go in as a two-loss squad too. So folks, next year's Iron Bowl is most likely for who's in the playoffs and who's out. That's how I see it. So Auburn's over 7.5 wins, to me, is pretty damn written in pen. Like I said, they start to build leads. They start to tee off with that pass rush. It becomes very scary. So to recap, last thing that we'll do to recap the betting stuff from this podcast, the main takeaways. Clemson ACC Championship at plus 110. Cade Klubnik Heisman at plus 900. USC over 6.5 wins. Washington over 5.5, over 6.5, whatever that is, hammer that. Hammer that. Auburn, big one. Big one. Over 7.5 wins. Yeah, it's a risk because of Arnold, but again, all he has to be is a game managing quarterback. All right, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm going to continue to munch on this bread.